Dr. Anthony Harper here, blessed to be in Washington, D.C. for a lot of historic events. And Prime Minister of East Turkistan in exile here is Prime Minister Hudayar, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
A lot of crucial issues that are happening, especially in light of what President Trump had recently talked about, was about the forced labor camps in the area of East Turkistan, which China has taken control over. And I know there's a concern about the oppression, the human rights violations, the way people are being treated there. So what has recently happened in light of President Trump's announcement that banning products from that area, you were mentioning something about the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Yes, the House of Representatives earlier this week on the 22nd passed the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, which would pretty much bar any goods that are coming in from China that are suspected of being made by the forced labor of Uyghurs and the Turkic peoples. What it also would do is call on, the U.S. Secretary of State to to designate whether what China's atrocities in East Turkestan constitutes as a genocide or crimes against humanity.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a very serious issue. We think about not only this human rights violation. We know that China has been persecuting Christians and other religions. Of course, the high abortion rate, killing children, and stealing property, intellectual property, and otherwise. And there's a real serious threat that the U.S. faces with China right now. And so your people, you pronounce them contradictory to what they say in the media. It's the real pronunciation of your people are called
Uyghur.
Okay.
Uyghur.
So as an American, I'm having a hard time with pronouncing that correctly. But this is very special history that you have in that area. And can you summarize about how did East Turkestan lose their control over that area?
So in 1884, you had the Manchu Qing dynasty invade and occupy East Turkestan, and they incorporated it into China, or the Manchu Empire, as Xinjiang, which means the new territory. In the 1920s, we had a national movement, and we declared independence as East Turkestan in 1933, only to be overthrown due to Soviet intervention in 1934. Then again, in 1944, we declared independence once more as the East Turkestan Republic. This time, the Soviets supported us for their own geopolitical ambitions, only to sell us out in 1949, and they assisted Mao Zedong and the newly established People's Republic of China to take over East Turkestan. Since then, our people have been struggling to regain our independence, and China has been effectively, engaging in a brutal campaign of colonization and genocide over the past 70 years. And this is why, in recent years, they've ramped it up to where now their only solution that they see is to wipe us out completely.
Oh yes, it's a really serious concern about genocide. And you also think about the religious rights of other groups. There seems to be a rise of anti-Semitism and anti-Christianism as well. I know there's a small minority of Christians compared to what it used to be. I think from my understanding that East Turkestan used to be a high population of Christians.
Yes, up until really the 16th, 17th, mid-17th century, East Turkestan had a significant Christian population. In fact, between the 6th to about the 16th century, East Turkestan, up until the 10th century, East Turkestan was actually predominantly Christian. Then in the 10th century, you had some different tribes in East Turkestan accepting Islam, and gradually by the 16th, 17th century, Islam became the predominant religion. And then in the 1880s up until the 1930s, you had Swedish missionaries who tried to, reintroduce Christianity to East Turkestan.
So, what is the main concern you have is the human rights the violation of the people in these internment camps, and you would like, as many would like to see, those people released, to China to release those people and to respect the rights of your people to live in freedom.
So ultimately, what we're struggling for, like our predecessors, is to regain our independence. Because China promised us autonomy in 1955, and for the past almost 7 decades, the only autonomy has only brought us colonization, genocide, and millions of our people being locked up in concentration camps, regardless of whether they're Muslim, whether they're Christian, whether they're Buddhist, or other religious faiths. Just because of their national identity, China is destroying, our historical sites, including, churches, mosques, temples, anything to show that we were separate from what China claims, is as being a part of China.
So, what would the people from East Turkistan would want from the United States as far as on helping this matter, and besides, of course, banning products from that? How can you see the U.S. more involved with this?
So one of the first things that we ask from the United States government and Americans in general is to, correctly use the correct terminology when referring to East Turkestan. And the term Xinjiang is, a humiliating term. It's a colonial term, meaning the new territory. We want to be treated on par with Tibet. Nobody but China refers to Tibet as Xizang. So we'd like the United States government and the average Americans to refer to us as East Turkestan. Also, we'd like them to refer to us as Uyghurs, Kazakhs, or, rather than saying just Uyghur Muslims, because majority of our people are Muslims, but we have, again, other populations that are not, that are not Muslim. Like we have Christians, we have Buddhists. So it kind of like alienates that, and this is something that the mainstream media, for whatever reason, continues to just brush everyone under one term. Ultimately, what we're asking for is to get the U.S. government to recognize the atrocities as a genocide, while also recognizing East Turkestan as an occupied country. Up until 1949, the U.S. had an actual consulate in East Turkestan. And this is something that many politicians, I feel, have forgotten today.
Okay, I know it's been brought up before about why is East Turkestan so important to China. I've heard about all the natural resources, and the question is for a lot of people, how likely is that China would give up all those vast natural resources and would just roll over and play dead in this kind of situation?
Well, China is not going to voluntarily give it up. That's something that we have to, accept. That's the sad reality. East Turkestan is roughly 1/5 of what is now known as China. It's 1,828,418 square kilometers, roughly 4.5 times the state of Texas. So it's a massive piece of real estate. It's rich in natural resources, including oil, natural gas, gold, silver, tungsten, uranium, and other mineral resources. But it's also of strategic importance to China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is China's imperialistic goal to achieve its Chinese dream of of becoming the sole military, economic, and political power in the world. And this is why our people are being persecuted to where it's a genocide, because China doesn't want to lose control of East Turkestan. They fear that East Turkestan will regain its independence. That's why since 2019 they've listed one of their top national defense goals is to prevent the creation of East Turkestan. They feel that inevitably that they're going to get in some form of conflict with the United States, and that they're worried that the United States will support East Turkestan, and that's why they're locking us up in concentration camps, bringing in millions of Chinese to take our place, to ensure that the resistance, if something does happen, there won't be an effective resistance to the Chinese.
A very serious issue, along with a lot of Christian people are concerned about abortion, human rights violations. We've heard stories about baby parts being sold, a tremendous amount of abortion. The way people are treated in those internment camps for body parts being sold, taking advantage of the people in that. What do you know about that?
So, according to the Chinese government, what they stated themselves, between 1979 and 2009, they, quote, prevented the births of 3.7 million babies in East Turkestan. After 2009, they haven't released any statistics of how many million babies they aborted, but abortion is something that they have routinely carried out in East Turkestan. Inside the concentration camps, they're sterilizing, inside and outside the concentration camps, they're sterilizing Uyghur and other Turkic women because they don't want our population to grow. They're also coercing, Uyghur women to marry Chinese men. And then between 2016 to 2017, again, this is from the Chinese government's official state media, they collected the DNA samples, voice prints, and retina scans of 36 million people in East Turkestan. What they use that information for, we don't know, but we suspect has something to do with organ harvesting, because since the 1990s, the Chinese government would routinely harvest the organs of political prisoners. However, in recent years, the amount of organ transplants happening in China, went from several hundred a year to tens of thousands, to over 40,000 a year, as of like 2017. And these organs that they're getting, it's actually from the Uyghurs and other Turkic peoples. In fact, they're even selling this to rich, wealthy people from the Middle East as halal organs, meaning that these are organs that have from Muslims that have not engaged in any that haven't touched pork or haven't drinking alcohol, so it's halal, so you can take these organs. A lot of military hospitals inside eastern China, according to human rights researchers, are involved in this organ harvest campaign. Specific airports in East Turkestan have a specific lane simply for organ harvest, transporting the organs. It's clear, like they have it on the floor, lane for organs only lane. You have tens of thousands of Uyghurs that were, 500,000 Uyghurs actually since 2018 were secretly transported out. And I'm sure some people have seen the videos of Uyghurs being, with the black hoods on them and being transported onto like cattle rail cars. And that's what it is. They're being transported into Chinese provinces. The ones that are being transported for forced labor are the ones being transported in the bus and trains that are not, the cattle trains. The ones being transported in the cattle trains are the ones that are being sent to get their organs harvested. And ultimately, you trace where they end up. For example, they end up in Heilongjiang province, which is near the Korean border. And Korea is a very big market, a recent emerging market for organs. Another area is Hannan province, and researchers discovered that 5 military hospitals in Hannan province are responsible, that are complicit in the organ trade.
Very, very, very disturbing. You want people to get more information about and all this about East Turkestan. Is there a website that you would like to encourage people to read?
Yes, we ask everyone to visit East EAST-TURKISTN.net, eastturkestan.net. Follow us at ETExile.gov or ET Awakening on Twitter and other social media.
Okay. Well, this is a blessed time to get a little bit of a history for what the East Turkestan people are going through. And thank you, Prime Minister Hudayar.
Thank you for having me.
Great to talk with you.